Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Warm greeting from our Innovation Center in Agri-Technology for Advanced Bioprocessing, University Technology Malaysia, Education Hub Pagoh, Johor, Malaysia. It's give us great pleasure and honor to welcome you today for our webinar. My name is Professor Hisham Al-Inshasi, Director of ICA. And for this, our new webinar series, Bioeconomy, Food Security, and Healthy Life. And it's our great pleasure and honor for starting this webinar in a talk of Dr. Malik Hussain for sustainable food security and challenges to provide safe and nutritious food for everyone. Before we start, I would like just giving small brief about Dr. Malik Hussain, who, if I would like to report all about facts about his CV, I need one day, but I just brief it in a couple of minutes. Dr. Hussain is Associate Professor at Innovation Food Production at Western Sydney University. He holds also position as Visiting Professor at Jinan University, China, one of the most famous food technology universities in China, where people say usually Jinan is the garden of China for food. And he's also experienced as a food scientist and specialized in food microbiology and biotechnology. He received his PhD in food microbiology from University of Melbourne in 2007. He held different academic awards, and he received in different awards and a fellowship, including prestigious OECD fellowship in 2014. And work at Gulf Food Research Center in Canada. His research interest in the food, probiotics, food security, and microbiology, and food standardization and regulations. We have more than 20 years work experience worldwide in different universities. And also he worked in the New South Wales Food Authority and Victoria Department of the Health in the Syria as a senior scientist. He held many continued and international training course, workshops, symposium in probiotics, and he's affiliated to several professional associations, including the Australian Institute of Food Science and Technology. Thank you very much, Dr. Malik, for joining us. But in any webinar or seminars we have, this cannot be successful without having a very nice and strong scientific background moderator. We have with us today Associate Professor Dr. Dayang, Norulfairuz, Abang, Zaidel, and Dr. Dayang. She is Associate Professor at Department of the Chemical and Environmental Engineering at Malaysian Japan International Institute of Technology, University of Technology Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur, who is also a full research fellow in ICA Pagoh and associate fellow in Institute of Bioproducts Development, UTM. And she have engineering certifications, the chemical engineer, ICAM in UK, and also have more than 60 R&D consultancy projects and supervised more than 50 students. And she was also the head of bioprocess engineering department at University of Technology Malaysia and the Faculty of Chemical and Energy Engineering. And her specialty in the food processing and technology, food rheology, food nutrition, green technology, and involving of enzymes in different processes. She have more than 70 articles, publication, and more than 50 international conferences. Therefore, I'm very glad to have both prominent researchers, the speaker, the moderators in this webinar. Thank you very much for having this one. And I hope everyone seeing us today will enjoy our new webinars from ICA Pagoh. Thank you.
Okay, I'll share my slides. Can you see my slides now?
Yes, we see it, Dr. Malik.
Okay, should we start?
Yes, please, Dr. Malik. You may start now.
All right. First of all, I'm very honored and humbled by the introduction from my friend and our well-renowned scientist, Professor Hisham. I'm very pleased to be part of this ICA webinar series, and also thank Dr. Dayang for her kind invitations. So the topic we are going to talk about is about sustainable food security. It's a topic very close to my heart, and I have been working and delivering a lot of what we can say the outreach activities in this area for last 10 years. So you can see I'm affiliated with the Western Sydney University as an associate professor in innovative food production. I also hold a position as a visiting professor at International School Keynote University and a number of other professional affiliations. Now, it will be not fair for me to really give this talk without mentioning our 10 years long collaboration and friendship with the colleagues, scientists, and my friends at UTM. And I will really acknowledge Professor Aida U. Muhammad's initiation of all these collaborations and activities together 10 years ago, and it never stopped and continue and counting. And what I think we have a very bright future in terms of the scientific, technical, as well as research collaborations in coming days. So you can see this is not the first food security webinar. We have initiated actually the event back in 2015. And one was a very big one where the Professor Dr. Dayang was also coordinating the event at KL campus back in 2016. So it's really, I want to highlight that my affiliation with UTM is always a pleasant one and a productive one. And I would like to give all the credit to all of my friends and colleagues at UTM. So coming back to my talk, I'm going to share some of my views. So you may not agree with this one, but what I'm going to highlight here, why the food security is a global. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you please make the slide like a slideshow, because we can see that your view, like it's not a slideshow view. Sorry.
Is it okay now?
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay. Sorry for this one. Okay. Now, what I'm going to share with you is some opinion about how we consider food security is a global challenge, and what do we mean by sustainable food security, and what are some challenges we face when we want to make everyone food secure. Okay. Now, this is again a brief overview who I am. So I'm a food scientist, technologist, a lot of specializations, and worked in academia as well as in a government sector on different food regulations and food safety systems. So before I really start talking about the topic, I would like to give you a brief overview where I come from, where this university is located. So we, as a Western Sydney University in Australia, are spread almost all over Sydney. So most of our campuses are toward the west side. And you can see some of them are highlighted with W. W is our symbol. So we call ourselves Western, not Western Sydney University. That's our official abbreviation. So we are in the biggest city in Sydney. That's what we call it, Harbour City. And the arrow is pointing toward the campus where I am located. And it's very close to the famous Blue Mountains area in Sydney, New South Wales. So these are images of some of our major campuses. So we have multiple campuses, as I said, more than 16. But Hawkesbury campus is very famous for food science and plant sciences and agriculture. Parramatta campus is more about science and business studies. Campbelltown campus is for medicine and medical sciences. So you are most welcome to come and join our program or collaborate. So in terms of the food science, we have state-of-the-art facilities at Hawkesbury. Sorry, I lost my slides.
Maybe you can end the slideshow and restart the slideshow
I
again.
think
Yeah, probably.
that's what I'm thinking. Okay, we're good to go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Okay. So in terms of the food science, most of our facilities are at Hawkesbury campus. We got food innovation facilities. We have sensory and consumer science labs. We have all food science and microbiology research and testing labs, including molecular biology. And in terms of the research group discipline, we, as a food science team, we sit with agriculture and food sciences. So these are two of our undergrad programs. We offer a Bachelor's of Science program in Innovative Foods. That's primarily food science degree in food innovation. And we had a Bachelor's of Medical Science in Human Nutrition. So these are our, what I will say, the two programs related to food science and nutrition. And some of our research areas are in novel foods, alternative protein, functional foods, risk assessment of new food products, probiotics and microbial technologies, as well as the global food supply challenges, where the food security is one of them. All right, let's come back to our topic, our today's discussion. So I'm sure that you have heard this definition again and again. This is what we can say the one of the universally accepted definition of food security. It does exist when all people, all time, have physical, social, economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. So it's a very, very comprehensive description of what food security does include. And it also highlights some elements and pillars or aspects of the food security. So when we look at what does food security include, what are the pillars of food security? Food security is built on four main pillars: availability of food. So if it should, everyone should have enough and appropriate food available, and they should have the physical, economic access to food. That's related to accessibility of food, and appropriate utilization in terms of the nutrition and dietary intake. And finally, the stability and supply of access to the food. Any variability in the weather conditions or production fluctuation, how we are going to handle and ensure that food is still available. Do we have that kind of leverage available? So the food security is built on these four pillars, basically: food availability, food access, food utilization, and nutritional outcome. Basically, what we want to achieve here that the availability, access, and better utilization of food for better nutritional outcome in terms of the health of the consumers. So now the question is, why it's very important, why we need to really worry or talk about global food security. It's very crucial. It's important to eradicate the hunger, also to promote the human well-being and achieving the sustainable development. If people are struggling to afford enough food on a daily basis, it's not reasonable to expect long-term sustainable development and economic growth in any economy or in any nation. So food security is very closely linked to the poverty reduction, economic growth, and environmental sustainability. I'm going to touch base briefly around this one as well. Now, so the World Food Programs reported that there's more than 340 million people are facing high level of food security in 2023. So this situation will get worse, primarily because of the global economic crisis everyone facing in different parts of the world. Now, when we talk about food security, it's not a very simple or straightforward challenge. It is immensely complex, and it's linked to a number of different areas in terms of the food production and supply, as well as the safety and nutritional quality of the food that's available. And when we try to understand the food security, we are talking about a science that will help us to identify the reasons why millions of people are hungry, and this hunger or starvation is causing the deaths of those people. So to give you some numbers to understand how big the problem is. So this is a United Nations report back in 2022, right after the end of pandemic, or when we are closing the pandemic. What they have identified is around 828 million people go to bed hungry every night. And that's almost 10% of our population. So when we talk about 820 million, these are the people who cannot afford or cannot have access to a meal at night. But on the top of this one, what they have identified, more than 3 billion people do not have access to sufficient supply of safe and nutritious food. It's very important to understand safe and nutritious food. It's not only the food. Okay, so that's what I'm going to come to a point why it's important for everyone to have safe and nutritious food. So I'm not going to read all of these facts. Again, United Nations put up a number of figures here. What they want to highlight, the problem of the food security is going backward. We are not actually reducing the hunger. The hunger is increasing, and there's a number of factors, especially after the COVID. There was around 9.8% increase of the people who are affected with the hunger in 2021 as compared to 2020. And one important point I really want to highlight here, almost 3.1 billion people could not afford a healthy diet in 2020. And we will primarily talk about what are those 3 billion people and what sort of unhealthy food access they have. So the food security challenge is very closely linked to the growing global population. Very simple. So the growing population, especially at very rapid rates, primarily in Asian and African countries, is putting immense pressure on food production system. What does it mean? More people mean more demand for the food, and that is a significant challenge for global agriculture. All right, so I'm not sure how many people, I like to use this, what they call it, wordometer. That can give you an estimation of real-time human population. So if you have chance, you can go and just do a Google search through the wordometer, and you will find this one. So the search I have done yesterday, almost 24 hours before, it says our current population is 8.17 million. Sorry, billion. So regardless, the challenge is not that we have to deal with 8.17 billion people. Okay. The challenge is this population is continuously growing. When we start talking about food security issues in a global context back in 2015, most of the estimates suggest that by 2050 the population will be 9 billion. Okay, you can read most of the publication before 2015, or I'll say until 2017 or 18, they never talk about 10 billion people by 2050. Most of the estimates suggested 9 billion. However, now the revised projection is 10 billion, not 9. So I'll say in this global food security challenge, everything is not predictable accurately. Okay, we just work around estimates. Okay, estimate of human population growth, estimate of people that those will go hungry, estimation of people who will die because of the starvation, estimates of the climate change, estimate of the impacts of the agriculture production, and so on. So most of the estimates always goes wrong. And one of the big example is most of our planning done before 2015 was considering that we will have 9 billion people to feed. But the reality now is still it's around 25 years to go, and it's 10 billion, 1 billion extra humans to take care of them. So in terms of the food security, what is our global challenge? In a simple words, feed the world. As I said, it's not an easy task. It's a very, very complicated problem, and it's getting more complicated as the population keep growing every day, right? So on average, we need around 14% extra food to feed that growing population each year. So our challenge is world population will face the shortage of food. Okay. To meet that shortage, we need to increase our food production at least 50%. Okay. If you see here, this is a slide that still shows 9 billion people. That's what I was talking. But the revised estimation are 10 billion people. Now, it's not only the population, and we have recently seen major events that are linked to the climate change, indirectly what we call it global warming. So that is impacting on agriculture and food production. Rather than this climate will assist us to produce more food, it's going to disrupt our growing seasons. It's going to cause us a big headache in what I would say the serious threat in terms of the extreme weather condition. You have seen a couple of months ago, Dubai has received its, in UAE, they have received 1 year rain in couple of days. And that's where the entire weather patterns are changing. That will seriously affect our capacity to produce food and indirectly or directly toward the food security. So we need to also consider climate very seriously now. That's one of the challenges to meet. Now, considering we have challenge, not enough food available, we have the people who are hungry, and climate could come and play its own role. So what could be the solution? Classical approach, less, produce more. Okay, rely on agriculture. And to me, it's not going to work. And most of the publications are the papers talking about how we can tackle the food security problem, also talk about food, relying only on the agriculture and food production, enhancing patterns is not going to work. We have a limitation with the shrinking land resources. When more people are going to live on this planet, we need to use some of the agriculture land to build the infrastructure, to build the housing for an extra 2 to 3 billion people. And also the extensive farming practices are not sustainable. In the long term, we produce less. So there's a number of new and emerging approaches that can help us to manage or address this problem more sustainable manner, thinking about how we can make our agriculture more sustainable, how we can adopt technology, access to education, better water management, especially in the countries where rainfall is not sufficient. I don't think so. Malaysia has a problem with the rainfall. Also diversification of crops. But one of the important aspects, I think, is once we have produced the food, how do we utilize the food? What's the best way of using that food to ensure that everyone is getting good and healthy food? And this also includes looking at how we can reduce the food wastage. So among several other options, one of the sustainable solution is improving our food utilization through better distribution and care practices, such as improving food processing, preservation, storage, and that can also help us to ensure the safety of the food we consume. So this brings back us to a fundamental question. Why do we need food? What is the function of food? And why we need a more balanced or nutritious, healthy, and safe food? And food, when we talk about for human being, it's a basic need for human survival. It provides of energy and nutrients, and those nutrients could be macro, micro, and water. And we need a balanced food that provides us a daily recommended amount of all of these nutritional elements of the food for an active and healthy life. Even a deficiency of one element could cause us health issues. In other words, we will not having a healthy life. So what happens if we don't have enough food? Or if we don't have food at all? So death. Okay. There's a number of factors that if will affect, we cannot exactly know how long a person can survive, but most of the data tells us most of the people cannot survive without food and drink more than 21 days. Okay, what happens when we don't get food or not getting enough food? When our body do not receive food, what happens? Usually we go into a situation is called starvation. This means our body start not functioning properly. So if we don't have food, no water, most of the time is 1 week we can survive. With water and without food, it may 2 to 3 months, but we will have some health complications. So the food is the most essential element for an active and healthy life. So it should come from a sustainable sources. So that make the basis of sustainable food security. So what does sustainable food security include? This is one of the publication in 2014. They talk about, it talks about the availability of food or sufficient food production, access, sufficiency in terms of the nutrition, energy, protein, micronutrients, as well as safety and stability and availability, especially in terms of any foreseeable conditions, especially if the weather condition change, how we are going to ensure the food supply will not discontinue, and a worldwide emergency happens, like what happened during the COVID-19. So these are our challenges, how we can ensure our system will become sustainable. There's a number of threats to make sustainable food security for everyone. The first of all is a limited supply of nutritious and safe food. Food may be available, but it may be not nutritious and safe. And that will limit the purchasing powers of the people. So the people who can afford better, they will buy more nutritious food, especially if we look at the prices of the fruits and vegetables are very high as compared to some of the other foods that are not very nutritious. And food insecurity also affect actually the low income groups, most with the increased risk of hunger and malnutrition. So the poverty, the economic powers also important for a sustainable food security. So if we're not getting enough food, okay, if the system is not sustainable, not enough food, so over time, what will happen? The restricted food intake. So we are not supplying enough food for the people. It will reduce their lifespan overall. And one of the major health issues they may face is a malnutrition. That may lead to stunning, wasting, or micronutrient deficiencies that again translate into a number of health issues, including the reduced immune system and cancer and digestive problems. So not enough food can reduce the lifespan, and in a severe cases, it's a death because of starvation. On the other hand, if system is not sustainable, if too much consumption of the food or inappropriate food, or food that is not providing us a balanced micronutrient and water, it's overnutrition, and that is also lead to number of health issues such as obesity and overweight. So how we can create a balance in between is where our challenge lies. Okay. So food insecurity is existing right now. We don't need to wait until 2050 to think what is a food security look like. So this is one of the report that shows us there's a triple burden of malnutrition. Almost 3 billion people are affected by food insecurity. That's our current situation. And most of this data is coming from FAO. And we talked about almost more than 800 million people in worldwide, they do not have enough food to eat. And 3 million of them are aged between 0 to 5 and die every year because they're not getting enough food or they were undernourished and they face some other health complications. And another 2 billion people, they have serious deficiencies of micronutrients, and primarily vitamin A, iron, and iodine are the major one. So this is the around these 3 billion people are who are affected by food insecurity. On the other hand, we have the people who have oversupply of food in terms of the food availability, and they face problem with the overweight and obesity. And that's again 1.9 billion. So if we want to change this current situation in terms of the food utilization, in terms of the food insecurity worldwide, we need to rethink about our food supply system and overall our the future foods availability. So the future system that will make everyone food secure should ensure everyone have enough food and good. When I'm talking about good food, the food that will not make them sick, safe food, and it is healthy food. Healthy food I had already defined that provide them all the necessary nutrient elements, macro, micro, and water, and is culturally appropriate. There are some foods it may be available, but it may be not culturally appropriate from certain population, and we need to ensure that the food should also be culturally appropriate that people can consume. Otherwise, if even that some foods are available but it's not acceptable in that culture, it could be also problematic. And one of the big example is halal foods. If its food is not halal, Muslim populations will not actually use that food, so it's not actually available for them to consume. So one of the problem we will face is shortage of protein supply, and we need to look for some alternative protein sources. And it's very hard to keep relying on animal-based products. That's where now a lot of research is going into the alternative protein sources. That include plant-based proteins, even the proteins grown in a lab, what we call it cultured meat, proteins coming from byproducts of some of the animals, and so on. But the fact is, this is one of our book where we talk about what's the alternative protein, their food safety, as well as food security consideration. What we have seen is a clear transition from plant-based foods to from animal-based foods to plant-based foods, and that is going to shape our future food systems. And this we need to consider when we are going to address the sustainable food security challenge. So now we are approaching to an end of whatever I think on this topic. It may be not very comprehensive, but it does have some food for thought. One couple of take-home messages when I think about what is happening in this one. As I said, this is very complicated problem. It cannot be resolved by only one expertise or only one group of people. A joint effort of multiple disciplinary experts needed, such as agriculture scientists, post-harvest technologists, horticulturists, food scientists, food safety professionals, environmental scientists, economists, health professionals, and so on. So a big list of people need to engage to improve our food security situation, especially how we can enhance the availability of food. It could be by reducing the food wastage, using the food wastage to produce some new foods, or thinking how we can develop new products, and also food safety management to ensuring that the food we already have produced will not go into wastage because of contamination or food safety issues. And also how we can improve the nutritive values of our current foods, how we can combine different foods so people get more healthy and nutritious food choices that is rich with the more bioactive compounds and have better functionalities to achieve their active and healthy life goal. So I would like to really thank my friend Professor Hisham once again for his, and my friend Dr. Dayang for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts on this very important topic. I think this is just the initiation of our discussion on this important topic. It must continue. And I appreciate their efforts and taking this this also a futuristic initiative into food security area. And let's continue our this discussion. And also thanks to my School of Science for allowing me to spend some time with you. And a lot of thanks to the webinar organizing committee, Dr. Nulisa, and the team that assisted in the successful delivery of this webinar. Finally, this is not the end. We have multiple other avenues to engage. As I said, we have been working together a long time, and we also have a group called Asia Pacific Institute of Food Professionals. You can engage to that platform addressing some of these global issues, as well as we have upcoming webinar. I'm sure Dr. Dayang will further circulate this information for you. So with this one, I would like to finally thanks everyone and the people who are participating in the event as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malik, for very insightful sharing on the sustainable food security. Okay, it's very challenging that nowadays that we have to not only ensure that food we consume is enough, but also make sure that it is safe to be consumed and also nutritious for everyone nowadays. And as I can summarize a bit, recap, so it's sustainable food security is about the availability of the food, the access to safe food, sufficiency of the food, and also the stability. And not ending there, but make sure also it is nutritious food to be consumed by the people. And some of the challenges that I can grab is that the growing population will be like 10 billion people more in 2050, and also climate change, and also limited land resources. And therefore, it's important for all these scientists, food technologists, agriculture, in agriculture field together, that we can help in make sure that this sustainable food security. All right. So before I read, we have questions from the audience. Yeah. Okay. So before I read the questions from the audience, probably I will have one question from me. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
please.
Okay. I would say that what does the role of governments and also probably international organizations play in ensuring that this sustainable food security, Doctor?
I think, thank you very much, Dr. Dayang. This is very, very important question, I would say, and I'll appreciate that you have raised this question. As I mentioned, that it's very complicated. Multiple stakeholders need to play an active role to ensure that we resolve this problem in a sustainable manner. I'll just give you two examples. Over the last 5 to 10 years, most of the countries, the government, they start developing their national food security strategies or policies. And there's a very good start in terms of how we can see the governments are getting very serious about this one, and they do understand the importance of this problem, and they can see that it is going to impact the country's economic growth if they will not address this problem in coming future. And there's a number of examples where the private organizations are very active. One of the example I'll say, in number of countries, they start establishing their food banks. Okay, that's more around charities. You know, the companies who have excess foods, the food that's about to expire cannot be utilized. You can channel through those ones so that can reach to the people who cannot afford it. So look, there's lots happening in this space. Everyone need to play their role. Definitely, it's a government and private sector. What I will say, the mutual collaborations, as well as engaging with all other stakeholders and experts in different fields.
Yeah, that's right. Because all parties need to be together to ensure
Yep.
this food security is, yeah. Okay, I'll read the next.
Yep. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, I'll read one question from ICA UTM Pagoh. Okay, thank you for your wonderful sharing, Dr. Malik. I have a question. What role do bioprocessing technologies play in ensuring the safety and nutritional quality of food? Yeah, ICA is our center in Pagoh on bioprocessing. Dr. Malik.
I think this is also another important area. Now, as one of the things toward my talk, I mentioned that one of the challenge we will face is a shortage of proteins. Okay, carbohydrate may be still sufficient, and proteins are very important and needed for, you know, everyone, especially the children and infants, you know, for their healthy growth. Otherwise, they may have some health issues. So one of the things we look at the role of bioprocessing technologies, including how they can supply us alternative food sources, especially the more nutritious and with the bioactive compounds. Look, such as using algal proteins or proteins coming from bacteria are the very classical example where the bioprocessing will jump in. And now, if we look at cultured foods, it's not only meat. So the persistent fermentation, we can now produce the molecules and liquids that reflect the composition and somehow nutrition that we can get from the milk from animal. So I'll say the bioprocessing technologies has a huge role in addressing the shortage we will have. You know, there's a vacuum. We have a current production system that supplies us food at the moment, but in the future, we will have a shortage of certain foods, especially proteins, and healthier foods, especially functional foods. And that's where the bioprocessing technologies and bioeconomy is very important.
Yeah. Then it goes to this second question, which I think relates to what you said just now, the cultured meat. Yeah, from Kelana Lalu, question from Kelana Lalu. Can you please explain more on cultured meat? Is it safe to eat and is it halal? Thank you, sir.
I think I was expecting this question. Very interesting. Look, over the last couple of years, we started talking about future foods and novel proteins. Okay, this is where we are coming now here. A simple sentence I want to really say here: we like it or not, we accept or not, cultured meat is coming and it's one of the future proteins. Okay. Now, what are the food safety challenges? We don't have a physical product available. It's very hard to really give you a risk assessment about the cultured meat. However, there's a lot of work going on looking at the possible risk associated with the cultured meat. At our department, we also are trying to explore some of the risk possibly associated with the novel foods, including cultured. And at the moment, the first cultured meat-based product, chicken nuggets, introduced in Singapore in 2020. they use, I think, 20% of the meat to make the nuggets, chicken nuggets that's cultured in a lab. So it is reality now. My point is here. The question of being a halal is another interesting one. Okay, I think there is some opinions going on now, and I know in Malaysia you have JACM, that's the agency who deals with the halal foods or the certification for halal. And similarly, we have system in Singapore now, in Indonesia, Middle East, and Turkey. I have seen some reports. They are considering what is the status of lab-grown meat in terms of the halal. Look, it's a complicated one, okay? And there will be a lot of arguments. So I'm not really an expert in Islamic Sharia. So I will not say anything. Technologically, I can talk about what it is, but I will leave this one for the Sharia people to decide which direction we'll go on this one.
Yeah, it's very complicated. So we leave it to the what is this Sharia people like JACM
That's
in
right.
Malaysia, brother?
That's right.
Yeah. But is it safe? No one.
Look, when we talk about the food safety, Dr. Dayang, you know, any food is a food, correct? And food comes with a number of food safety hazards. There's no absolute safe food on this planet, okay? But what we have a system that help us to ensure that food safety hazard will not enter into the food, okay? And that applies to any food, doesn't matter it come from an animal or plant or wherever we get those foods, or it's lab grown, okay? So the principles of food safety apply same. Does it contain any pathogenic microbes? Does it has any harmful chemicals in it? Does it cause any allergic reaction to the consumer? Or does it has any physical hazard that shouldn't be there? So it's approach how you manage whatever the food ingredient we use. So there are in some instances, there's unexpected food safety hazards. Unfortunately, we will not know until it become part of our food supply. Number of products, you know, like I give you the example of wheat. Most of the people can eat wheat. It has no problem, no food safety hazard for them. But people who has a issue with gluten, for them, it's unsafe. So a lot of unexpected food safety challenges we will have. With this kind of novel foods, we need to really see when it's really become very common in our food supply systems. We have some prediction, we know it, but we have an approach that's called food safety, risk assessment, and looking at some of the management tools.
Yeah, okay. Now, of course, before the food to be commercialized or produced, they will have some tests, yeah, Dr. Malik?
That's right. That's what we call it, risk assessment for novel foods. All of the countries have some sort of systems available. I think recently Singapore also introduced, I'm not sure at Malaysia at this stage, but in EU, they have EFSA, European Food Safety Authority. They have introduced a system how to assess the safety of the foods. Those are novel or new to our food supply.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So now we move to the next question. Question 3 from Otsuka. So what can we do to raise awareness to small-scale farmers as they only care to increase the yield and less concerned about the environment? Right. So now it's about environment.
Look, this is again a challenge. That's where we start talking about sustainable food security, okay? 15 years before it was about food security, trust me. We do not really talk a lot about sustainability aspect of the food security. Now, I know this is what's happening. That's where the problem is. As I said, our current systems are not appropriate. You cannot put too much pressure by intensifying your current agriculture practices, okay? So how we can manipulate our agriculture production system that become more sustainable. We can produce more food and commercially viable. We don't want that the farmer will struggle. If it's not, they cannot make money, they will stop doing farming. They will move to something else, correct? So we want, what we need a system, and that's where a lot of, I think, work is happening. I'm sure in Malaysia, in your center, innovation center, you will also look at some of the sustainable agriculture practices, and that will enhance the quality, nutritive value, as well as production of the food without putting a lot of pressure on our environment. And that's again a challenge, how we are going to achieve it. But there are work going on, and there are policies around it, and a lot of governments know they want you to demonstrate how sustainable your production system is, and what are the, what I will say, the carbon footprints of these activities. It's very important to look at those stages. It's all happening, okay? So whatever we are doing, everything is revolved around sustainability, and that's where we also have United Nations have also set up some of their sustainable goals. So there's a global efforts, there are regional efforts, and there are also efforts by the academics and researchers. And hopefully with our combined efforts, we will handle this very complicated problem in a successful manner.
Yeah, so that's so true. Even the smallest effort is counted. Yeah.
Yep. This
Okay,
webinar,
then
this webinar is also a discussion.
yeah.
It's
Right. Like it's like this is like awareness. Also
That's
one
right.
of the awareness. Okay. So next question from Nuraina Atira. So morning, I have a question. How can innovations in food production contribute to both sustainability and food security in the world? Innovations.
Yep. Look, I will say the most important innovation we will see in our future system is around food science and technology. And it's going to help us to identify what is a more appropriate ingredient for our future foods, and what are their functionalities, what are the bioactive compounds. One of the important area really the word are in a food science and nutrition we are moving is like more personalized nutrition. This was my another talk the other day. Okay, we talked about food innovation opportunities and challenges in one of the webinar. The concept is here, in a future, our foods will be more customized, more personalized. If there's 5 members in a family, they will not be eating the same meal. They will consider, if somebody really want to lose weight, they will eat definitely a different meal as compared to a person in a family who need to go for sports every night, you know. So it's going to help us in a number of ways, and that's where what I'll say a lot of innovation is happening, looking at novel ingredients, their functionalities, their better utilization, and even the ingredients, especially coming as a waste product or the products from the number of processing industries, how to reuse them purposefully to enhance their functionalities and bioavailabilities. So a lot of role here. You can see even thinking about insect protein. Again, there's a concept culturally appropriate. Okay, thinking about proteins coming from algal growth, a bright future. You don't need the fields or crops. You need in-house infrastructure. So the technology is going to help us a lot, especially the innovation in this space. And what I'm saying in some of my presentation and talks, the innovation, especially in alternative proteins, is a mega trend in our current time. So wherever you go, in a research institute, in a university, in a food companies, their priority is you talk about alternative proteins. Okay, so this is one of the mega, and this is all about innovation. And this innovation is going to drive our future food supply and ultimately will have a positive impact on sustainable food security. And most of the innovation happening is around sustainability also. Okay, they consider the talk we give most of the time. In the past, most of the time people look at the acceptability of the product, the taste, the flavor, uniqueness, tasty, the flavor, but no consumer are also concerned. That's fine. But how much sugar does it has? How it's being produced? Where it's being produced? Country of origin. So all those factors are being considered. Consumers are also becoming very sensitive about the sustainability and environmental aspect of food production systems. And that's where the companies are forced to consider the sustainability aspect very carefully in their innovation.
I guess nowadays when we say innovation, there's a lot of products, food products with a lot of latest trends, Doctor.
Yep.
Especially now, when you say that we have to customize the food for each member, I can imagine if me at home cooking for 5 members, and I have to cook for 5 different meals. I think now I need convenient food for me to cook
Yep.
at home. Yeah,
It's all
so
happening.
we
I
need
think
that innovation.
it's all happening in, even before there was only single meal for every family, everyone will eat. Now, because of this flexibility, what you just described, that we have convenience foods. So if we cook one meal, the 1 or 2 members of the family do not want to eat that meal, they will go and look for something else. What else is available? So it's happening right now. Even in my own family, sometimes if we cook, 1 or 2 of my kids, they don't want to eat. They want to, no, I want to eat something else. Okay, go ahead, get from the fridge and eat it. So it means the concept of single family meal will eventually diminishes, and we will see more customized meal. Everyone will have their own preference, what they want to eat on a particular day and time, rather than a single meal for each family, entire family members. You can force, but how long?
Yeah. Okay. So next question from Mira Liz. Yeah. Thank you for presenting such an insightful topic. I would like to ask, can genetically modified food contribute to addressing food security while ensuring safety food consumption? Yeah, genetically GMO.
Simple answer, yes, it has a great potential. Okay, and we have number of foods available in our food supply system that are genetically modified. You know it or you don't know it, that's a different story. But there are a lot of regulations around what can be sold as a genetically modified, what is the the labeling requirements. It's complicated. Okay, and what's a definition of genetically modified food is also confusing at this stage. So the safety, yes, any of the genetically modified food that is allowed to be available for human consumption, this is normally the responsibility of government regulatory agencies to assess their safety before they allow them to be available. There's a process for all the foods. Those either need to be grown or are, are obtained from genetically modified plants or animals, and what sort of regulations. So they need to meet their strict regulatory requirements. Some countries still do not allow any GM foods, such as New Zealand is one of the classical example. You cannot sell any of the GM foods because they are still concerned about what we say the unexpected food safety concerns are unforeseeable. So look, this is one of the potential option, and especially the corn or maize, a lot of genetically modified varieties give us a better yield and production and quality, and also you need to use less the chemicals, pesticides or insecticide to grow the genetically modified crops. So there's what I'll say, the plus sides and negative sides as well. So sometimes you need to weigh where is the what we call it cost benefits lies also, So as I said, it's very hard to have absolute safe food, but what is acceptable for human consumption, that's a food we are talking about here, if we want to have a sustainable and secure food system.
Yeah, GM food has been on debate for a long time, and
Yep.
yeah, it's important for agencies and government agencies to make sure that all the GM food production is safe for consumption.
No, look, no,
Okay.
it's changing even. And recently now in
Mm.
Australia and New Zealand, we have a joint regulatory system. There's
Mm.
a big the review is going on. What they're looking at, what is the definition of GM food? Rather than GM food,
Mm.
are we talking about gene technology? What kind of gene technologies are safe then, and where we have unknown risk available? So this maybe in a future you will see a new definition of genetically modified food. It's not all the what we call it genetic modifications are bad. Okay, some genetic modifications improve the food safety and quality and
Yeah.
those factors. So you need to consider what kind of genetic modification gene technology we are looking at. So some may bring some negative impacts as well. So look, a lot of reviews going on because when they define GM food first time and now, a lot of research happened, and even our understanding and technologies are improved a lot. So our review will help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And now it's I think it's last question. Okay, it's from Mr. Muhammad Farid. Okay, Doctor, what is your opinion on food security by the year 2030? It's not long, within 6 years, 2030. What is your
Look,
opinion, Doctor?
all right, I think this is the best question I have seen. Okay, most of the countries, sorry, if you see here, the initial target set up by the United Nations, what they call it is by 2030. Okay, so the targets set up by even United Nations. I think there's some background noise. Okay, it's gone. Now, I think it's coming from Dr. Please, if she can mute. All right, I'll go with a very quick answer. The targets were initially set up by United Nations that there will be zero hunger in the world by 2030. And everything has been revised. They say it's not achievable. We can never achieve zero hunger by 2030. And practically, it's a long journey. Okay. Whatever we said in this short term, we can see that the situation is becoming more complicated. Each year we have more and more global warming, and what we can say there's unexpected weather patterns, and that will impact badly our any targets we set to achieve in a short term as well as a long term.
Okay, yeah. So what I can summarize from your take-home messages now is that we need to make sure that the food is enhanced. We enhance the food availability.
Yep.
Make sure that and also food safety management, and also improve nutritive value of the food to ensure that food security will be sustainable. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Malik?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think we have reached to the end of our webinar. Yeah, and I really thank you for your time today and for sharing the topic, very interesting topic. It's very important, sustainable food security, which I think then it relates so much to our latest issues, also in Malaysia, in global issues. Yeah, and I hope that our collaboration will continue, enhance together, also with ICA and Western Sydney University. Yeah, and thank you very much also to all the audience for your time today and for the questions. I hope to see you again in the next webinar series for ICA.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's likewise. It's always very pleasant to be with the team at UTM and the audience from UTM. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dada Dayang. Thank you.